Last week we saw a huge pump for Bitcoin and we almost reached to $100,000, but we are seeing a huge front running happening and we are seeing that everyone is selling their Bitcoin right now. In this video I'm going to tell you exactly what the next move for Bitcoin is and what we can expect today for Bitcoin. There's also a lot of interesting news and data coming in for the Bitcoin and the Ethereum ETFs, but there's also interesting news coming in for Michael Saylor because he bought more again. And also President-elect Donald Trump is holding crypto, so later about that in the video. I'm also going to have a look at the two altcoins, Ethereum and FetchAI. So you want to watch this video all the way to the end? Don't forget to slap up that like button because it will help this channel a lot. And let's dive right into the charts. Yesterday in my video I was discussing this huge bearish divergence for Bitcoin on a 4-hour time frame. We saw that Bitcoin was making higher highs on the charts, and on the RSI we saw that Bitcoin was creating a lower highs, and this indicated that the buying pressure was cooling off a little bit, and this indicated that we could see a little bit of a drop later in the day, and that is exactly what Bitcoin was doing. And now we can see that the price of Bitcoin is cooling off a little bit, and also the RSI is cooling off. So this is actually very healthy to see, because after an overextension on the lower side, you want to see a little bit more downside to come back to lower levels, and then again we want to see the next push to the top side. So this is actually very healthy price action, because Bitcoin also made a very beautiful run to the top side, and we are still in this huge uptrend. So we could potentially see more top side in the coming days, but of course we could also see more lower levels, and I will discuss everything with you in this video. And if we have a look at the CME gap, Bitcoin still didn't close the CME gap, so we are now still trading below the CME gap, and this gap is still open. So we could potentially of course close the gap later in the year or maybe in the coming days. But however, there is also a CME gap on the lower side of Bitcoin, and that CME gap opened 2 weeks ago, and that is around the $76,532. So this CME gap could also get closed in the coming weeks. So keep in mind that this gap is still open and that Bitcoin could even close the gap, but of course 99 out of 100 times the gap is going to be closed. So this could be that one time that the gap for Bitcoin remains open. So let's see what we can expect for Bitcoin in the coming days. Are we going to close the gap, or are we going to see more downside for Bitcoin in the coming days? And yesterday the Bitcoin ETF saw a little bit of a bearish day. Of course BlackRock was still buying like crazy, but we saw the other ETFs were selling, and in total we saw a net outflow of $435.3 million. So this was having a little bit of a bearish effect on the price of Bitcoin. But however, the total cumulative inflow is still above the $30 billion. So this is insane, of course. And we can see that the total cumulative inflow for Bitcoin is still spiking to the top side, and we are now seeing one red day. So let's see what the rest of the week will bring us for the Bitcoin ETFs. And if we have a look at the 1-hour time frame, we can see that Bitcoin pumped all the way to the $100,000 almost, but we saw a huge front run, and the highest top for Bitcoin was around the $99,595. So from there we saw a huge decline. We came back to this previous resistance area, which we tested multiple times as support, and every time we saw a beautiful bounce to the top side. But we also came back to it the third time, and that was the time we broke below it. We saw a beautiful retest of the previous support to test it as resistance, and from there we saw a bit of a bearish move unfolding. And if we then zoom out to the 4-hour time frame, we can see that Bitcoin is also coming back to this lower side support region, and this was confluent with the previous resistance. We are seeing a beautiful retest already happening, so this could be a very interesting level to enter the market in a long. And we are seeing this bounce happening now. So after this huge consolidation, we saw a beautiful breakout, and now we are retesting this as support. So of course this could be a very interesting level to take in your long trades, and then you can aim for higher targets. But of course Bitcoin could also see a bearish scenario, and that we're going to break below this level, retest this previous support as resistance, and then we have to aim for lower levels. And then at this bearish retest you could potentially enter the market in a short for Bitcoin. And yesterday Michael Saylor announced that MicroStrategy is going to buy another $5.4 billion in Bitcoin, and that's exactly what they did. And if we have a look at the DCA chart for MicroStrategy, we can see that every green dot is a purchase for MicroStrategy, and they purchased more Bitcoin. So every time we see this green dot, they bought more Bitcoin. So this is the DCA strategy, and that means that you buy no matter what the price is. And as you can see, they bought at the lows, but they also bought at the highs. And now they also bought at the $99,000. So this is still a huge DCA chart. And this is one of the best ways to invest into Bitcoin and other assets. So you also always have an average buy-in price. And as you can see on this chart, no matter what the price is, MicroStrategy is buying like crazy. And if we zoom out to the daily chart, we can see that Bitcoin is still in this huge uptrend with higher highs and higher lows from this huge uptrend. And we are now seeing this spike to the top side, but eventually we are going to create this higher high. So we have to put in a higher high for Bitcoin around here, because this higher high is now being formed. So as I said in my earlier videos, we are now preparing ourselves for a higher low play, and this higher low needs to be higher than this other previous higher low, because then Bitcoin will still be in an uptrend, and then we can aim for higher targets. So we have to look how this higher low is going to unfold. It could of course be at this level, but of course it could also be at lower levels, and every time we go a little bit lower, I'm going to buy more Bitcoin for the long term. Because I think Bitcoin will just pump through the $100,000 and we will see much higher levels in the coming years. So for instance, if Bitcoin comes back to this level around the $85,000, you can enter the market again for Bitcoin, and then you can aim for higher targets. And then if we're seeing a correction for Bitcoin, don't panic, just put your buy orders in the market, and then you are always going to enter the market for Bitcoin on a lower, when the Bitcoin is a little bit in a discount. So this is looking very bullish if we're going to see a higher low unfolding, and then we can aim for higher targets. And if we have a look at another daily chart, we can see that Bitcoin is in this huge parabolic uptrend to the top side. And every time we touch this lower side support, we saw a beautiful spike to the top side every time. So this is looking very bullish. And of course, we could also see a little bit of a throwback, as I was saying in my earlier videos. And when we are coming back to this region and going to create a higher low, I believe that Bitcoin will see that next spike to the top side. And that is going to be an exponential move. So prepare yourself when Bitcoin is going to see a retest of this previous resistance, and then from there you can aim for higher targets. Because I still believe that Bitcoin will pump above the $100,000 and see much higher levels. And yesterday we also had a very interesting news fact coming in, and that was that the president-elect Donald Trump holds over $5.4 million in crypto. And as we can see here on the lower side, we have a lot of interesting data. And he's holding a lot of interesting coins, but we can't see Bitcoin around here. So I think also Bitcoin will be in his portfolios very soon, especially when America is going to buy more Bitcoin. So this is very bullish for Bitcoin because the president of the United States is holding cryptos. So I don't know what is going to be more bullish than this. And if we zoom all the way out to the monthly chart, we can see that Bitcoin is now separating itself from this huge support area, and we are seeing a huge spike to the top side. And in the previous cycles, we can see the similar move happening. So if the history of Bitcoin is going to repeat itself, then we are going to see this next exponential move to the top side. And if we're going to see a similar move, just like in the last bull market, we could see more of an increase from this level of 300%, and that will bring us around to $280,000. So this is still a very bullish target for Bitcoin, of course, in the coming months. So let's see if the Bitcoin history can repeat itself once again, because in the previous cycles we saw this beautiful run up to the top side. And if we're going to see the same move happening, then we can aim for huge targets in this coming bull run. And the first interesting altcoin I want to have a look at is Ethereum. We can see Ethereum is trading around this huge horizontal resistance level. As we can see here in the past, a lot of price interactions happening. And after the big pump from last week, we are now seeing a little bit of a resistance coming into the market. So we could potentially test for lower levels, come back, retest this previous resistance as support, and then aim for higher levels. But of course, we also have to keep in mind that this, after we broke out of this huge resistance area, we didn't retest it again as support. So we could come all the way back here and test it as support. So every time Ethereum is going a little bit lower, I am having my orders ready, and every time we come back to a certain support area, I'm going to buy more Ethereum for the long term. And if we have a look at the Ethereum inflows of yesterday, we saw a total net inflow of $2.9 million. So this was having a little bit of a neutral day. We saw that BlackRock was not buying, but Fidelity and Bitwise and Van Eck were buying. So it was having a little bit of a mixed day. And in total, we are now seeing $113.2 million of total inflow into the Ethereum ETFs. And if we zoom in a little bit on the 4-hour time frame for Ethereum, we saw after this beautiful run up a little bit of a consolidation, and then we saw a breakout to the top side. But however, as I'm saying always, you have to wait for a retest of the previous resistance to turn it into support. So for instance, if Ethereum is going to come back to this level, you can enter the market here in the long, because then we are retesting resistance as support, and from there we can aim for higher targets. So potentially this could be the next move for Ethereum in the coming hours. And the next interesting altcoin I want to have a look at is FetchAI. We can see that in the last months, FetchAI was in this huge falling channel to the downside. We saw a huge price consolidation happening, and after that, we saw a beautiful break to the top side. We retested this previous resistance as support, and this horizontal resistance was getting turned into support, and this was very beautiful. We saw more top side, but then we also saw big rejection coming into the market, and now we are grinding a little bit sideways. So for now, yesterday it looked like we saw a beautiful break of this resistance area, but we saw a fake out. So potentially we could come back to lower levels to test this previous support again, and from there we could possibly enter the market again for FetchAI and then aim for higher targets. But of course, there's also a bearish scenario possible that we're going to break below the support, retest it as resistance, and then even come back to this lower side region. And this could be the very first interesting region to buy a lot of Fetch, because I'm going to buy in a huge amount of Fetch, because at this green box of accumulation you can enter the market in the long, because I think that this will be a very strong level, as we can see a lot of price interactions happening here in the past. So let me know if you hold FetchAI in your portfolio and if you're still bullish on FetchAI. Please like the video if you think it was useful. Don't forget to smash that like button, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.